When you first open Laurence Hope's India's Love Lyrics, you aren't stepping into a single story with a beginning, middle, and end. Instead, you are stepping into a fever dream of sensory images. It's a collection of vignettes, a series of intense, lyrical snapshots that feel like they've been plucked from a tapestry. To understand this book, you have to understand that it doesn't follow one protagonist through a journey. Instead, it follows the movement of passion itself, how it starts as a spark of ecstasy and inevitably turns into something heavy, something costly, and often something violent. The book was originally published under the name Laurence Hope, a pseudonym used by the writer Adela Florence Nicolson. She presented these poems as translations of Indian verse, a choice that caused quite a stir in literary circles at the turn of the 20th century. While we now know they were her own original compositions, heavily inspired by the mysticism of Sufi poetry and the rugged landscapes of the northwest frontier, the effect remains the same. The language is lush, thick with the scent of jasmine and the heat of the desert, designed to pull a listener into a world where emotions are never mild. The journey through the collection begins with the raw elemental forces of longing. We meet characters who are defined by an almost unbearable obsession. There is Muhammad Akram, a man wandering the vast parched stretches of the desert. He isn't just traveling, he is being haunted. He is perpetually searching for the scent of jasmine and the face of his lost love, Aziza. His story sets the tone for the entire work. Love is not just a feeling here, it is a physical weight that follows you through the landscape. This leads us to one of the most striking and unsettling images in the book, the story of the priest, Lalaji. It's a scene that establishes a recurring theme in the collection, the idea that beauty often requires a blood price. Lalaji discovers a rare and beautiful plant, but its bloom is not free. He learns that the flower will only open its petals if a living child is buried beneath its roots. It's a chilling metaphor for the way the book views passion. In this world, the most exquisite things, the most intense moments of human connection, often demand a devastating sacrifice to exist. As we move deeper into the collection, the poems shift from the abstract feeling of longing to the harsh realities of human circumstance. We see how love is constantly being interrupted by the cruelty of the world, by disease, by war, and by the rigid structures of society. In Udaipur, there is a moment of profound, jarring tragedy. A woman experiences a night of romantic bliss, a moment of perfect connection with her lover. But when she wakes, the dream is shattered. She finds that the man beside her has been replaced by a leper. It's a sudden, violent shift from the heights of passion to the depths of physical decay, reminding us that in this landscape, beauty and horror are separated by nothing more than a single night. The scope of the book then expands to include the devastation of war. We meet a soldier wandering through the ruins of Kabul. He is a man broken by conflict, searching through the debris for his lover, a woman named Delight. His search is fueled by a desperate fear that she has been sold into slavery or lost to the chaos of the fighting. Through him, the book explores how war doesn't just destroy cities, it destroys the very fabric of individual desire, leaving people wandering through the wreckage of their own lives. As the vignettes continue, we see the intersection of the personal and the political. We meet a Rani, a woman of high status and heavy duty. She finds herself caught in a psychological struggle when she is drawn to a wounded enemy, a man who has killed her kin. This isn't just a story of forbidden romance, it's a study of the tension between individual passion and the crushing weight of social standing and duty. She is caught between the person she is supposed to be and the person her heart is forcing her to become. The collection also touches on the concept of reincarnation, which adds a spiritual, almost eternal layer to the tragedy. There is a sense that these lovers aren't meeting for the first time, but are recognizing each other's souls across centuries. This makes their suffering feel less like a series of accidents and more like a cycle of destiny. It suggests that the intensity of their attraction is actually a memory of a connection that spans lifetimes, making the temporary nature of their physical lives even harder to bear. This brings us to the darker, more existential side of the work. The poems begin to question the utility of passion in a world that is so clearly filled with suffering. We see a bride who dies of sheer exhaustion on her wedding journey, never even reaching the man she is meant to marry. Her life is consumed by the very ritual meant to celebrate her union. The tone shifts toward the grim realities of death and the permanence of grief as we reach the final movements of the book. There is a story of a man facing his own end, a man who wants to leave something behind in a world that feels increasingly empty. He asks a woman to bear his child as a living legacy. He commits suicide, leaving behind rubies for the child to find. But the tragedy doesn't end with his death. The woman dies of a broken heart shortly after the child is born. It's a cycle of loss that feels almost inescapable. The collection concludes not with a sense of peace or resolution, but with the heavy tension of a vow. We follow a man who has been wounded by a man named Amir Ali at a horse fair. This man undergoes a slow, agonizing recovery, but he isn't recovering to return to a normal life. His entire existence is fueled by a single, lethal purpose: to return to Kandahar and execute a calculated revenge. The book ends with him set against a backdrop of blooming almond trees. It's a final, bitter image. The almond trees are beautiful, but they serve as a reminder that in this world, love and death are inextricably linked. The beauty is there, but it is always framed by the inevitability of violence and fate. When we step back from these individual stories to look at the work as a whole, we can see the patterns that Laurence Hope has woven together. One of the most important elements is the duality of nature. The book uses the landscape to mirror the human emotional state. The desert is not just a setting, it is a character. It represents the parched, empty feeling of unrequited love, but it is contrasted with the oasis, which represents the sudden, overwhelming burst of passion. The sun is depicted as both a life-giver and a killer, much like the passion the characters feel. There is also a constant tension between the transient and the eternal. We see the fleeting nature of human life in the scent of a flower or the setting of a sun, contrasted against the permanence of memory or the coldness of stone. This creates a sense of urgency in the poems. Everything is beautiful, but everything is dying. The idea of the blood price is perhaps the most persistent theme. Whether it's the priest Lalaji and his plant, or the soldier in Kabul, or the man leaving rubies for a child, there is a sense that nothing of value is given without a cost. Passion is never just a feeling, it is a transaction that requires something of the soul, or sometimes something of the body. Ultimately, India's love lyrics is a study of the intensity of being alive. It doesn't shy away from the darkness, the disease, or the violence of the human experience. Instead, it uses those elements to highlight the brilliance of the light. It suggests that the very things that make life beautiful, the longing, the desire, the connection, are the same things that make it so incredibly difficult to endure. The book doesn't offer an easy way out or a comforting moral. It simply presents the cycle of desire and death as an inescapable part of the human condition, as constant and as inevitable as the blooming of the almond trees.